All right, guys, so we're going to do a little challenge here. Now, don't worry about it if you don't get the exact logic down. I'm not really worried about that. I just want you to know how to create a constructor function, take in a value, assign properties, and create methods on the prototype. So first thing is to create a constructor to create a player object with a name. So we want to be able to instantiate players like this. Then the player should have a name as well as a level set to 1 by default and points, a points property set to 0 by default. Create a method on the prototype called gainXP that takes in a number from 1 to 10 and adds it to the player's points. Okay, so it has to add it to the points, not replace it. And then if the current points are greater than or equal to 10, then add 1 to the level and then take 10 away, decrement the points by 10. Then create another prototype method called describe that displays the player's stats, which are the name, level, and points. All right, so we should be able to create 2 players, or however many players, and then call gainXP for player 1, pass in a number from 1 to 10. You can just hard code it, or you can make it a random number. Player 2 goes, player 1, player 2, and so on. And then at the end, we just describe, and it should say something like Bob is level 2 with 6 experience points, or Alice is level 2 with 3 experience points. All right. Now, again, if the logic isn't perfect, that's fine. I just want you to make this work, and you should be able to, again, create a constructor, properties, create methods on the prototype. All right. So if you want to pause the video and try it, go ahead. And I'm going to go ahead and get started myself. So we want to create a function called player. All right, so that's going to be our constructor function, and that's going to take in a name. So we want to assign that name to the name property. So we'll do that. Now we also want a level, so this dot LVL, and we're going to set that to 1 by default. So it's level 1. And then the points, we're going to set points to 0 by default. So now we want to create our gainXP method. So we're going to take player and say dot prototype dot and then gainXP, and that's going to take, let's say, equal function, and that's going to take in XP, which should be between 1 and 10 for this to work correctly. And then we want to add to the points. Okay, so our points property, we want to add that XP. Now I'm not going to just set equals because that will replace the current points. So I'm going to say plus equals the XP. So it'll add on to whatever is already there. Then we want to check to see if our current points are greater than or equal to 10. So if this dot points are greater than or equal to 10, then we want to increase the level. So let's say this dot LVL plus plus, that's going to increment it by 1. And then I just want to take 10 off the points. So we're basically like resetting it. So we'll say this dot points, and we want to decrement by 10. So that should do it for that, for the gainXP. Now we just want a describe method. So let's say player dot prototype dot describe. Set that to a function, and we're just going to return a template string here, and we want to say the player's name, so this dot name, and we'll say is level, and then whatever the level is, so this dot LVL with, and then the points, so this dot points and experience points. All right, and that should do it. So now we should be able to instantiate some players. So let's say const player, set that equal to new player, and we're going to pass in, say, Bob, and then let's create another player. So what name did I use for this? Alice. Okay, and we'll make this player 1 and player 2. All right, so if I console log, say, player 1, we have name, level, and points, and in the prototype, we have a gainXP and describe. All right, now we want to call the gainXP a couple times, and we want to alternate the players. So we'll say player 1 gainXP, and let's just say like 4, and then we'll do say 7 for player 2, and then I'll just go through this, and I'll just change these numbers up a little bit. So let's say 5, 1, 7. I'm just putting random numbers in here. 5 and 2. All right, so now we want to describe. So let's say console log. It's returning the template string, so we do have to add a console log. And let's say player1 dot describe, and then we also want player2 describe. So at the end of this, we have Bob is level 3 with 1 experience point, and Alice is level 2 with 9 experience points. Now, if you didn't get the exact functionality, that's fine. I just wanted you to know how to structure it, how to create a constructor function, use the this keyword, deal with properties and prototype methods, etc. Now, this is actually a good example that I could use to show you a little bit more about abstraction. So remember, abstraction is hiding the parts that we don't need. Now, in this case, we are using describe as, you know, one of the methods on the object, but we could make this an internal method and call it when each time we get a hit, right, on the gain XP. So I'm just going to comment that out, and instead let's go up to gain XP, and at the end of it we'll do a console log of this dot describe. So now if we go ahead and run it, we're going to see the describe after each hit. So Bob is at level 1, 4 experience points. Alice is level 1, 7 experience points. Level 1, Alice is, then Bob hits level 2, 6 experience points. Alice hits level 2. So if we were to do it like this, then we're hiding away describe, right? That doesn't need to exist for the user of the player object. So if we were to create documentation for this silly little game or whatever you want to call it, we wouldn't include describe because there's no reason for the person to know about it, the person that's using this object, unless you wanted them to, like we were doing at first. But I think I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a good example of abstraction and encapsulation. All right, so that's it. Let's move on to the next video.